This past Friday, an elderly farmer lady named Rolé Uys, who is 70 years old, was attacked and tortured on her farm. She's a cattle farmer from Carolina in the Mpumalanga Province of South Africa. And on Friday, she saw that one of the cows on the farm wasn't able to stand up. So she went outside with two of her farm workers to attend to the cow. She asked the workers to help the cow while she goes to the bakkie or the pickup truck to collect some items to assist the cow. And when she was there, she was then overrun and taken by attackers who dragged her into the house. They tied her up with chains. They covered her face with duct tape. They piled cargo nets and furniture on her. And they also tortured her with boiling water. The attackers took a cell phone and a firearm and fled the scene, having abducted the two farm workers, who were then released shortly thereafter, and from what we know, they were unharmed. Now, you might recall a few years ago, President Cyril Ramaphosa announced in New York City that there are no farm attacks in South Africa, that there's no killings of white farmers in South Africa. And you might recall the backlash or the outcry there was after the recent meeting in the White House, with especially journalists, media outlets from within South Africa and the United States falling in line to denounce those who are stating that there's a serious problem in South Africa, particularly with farm attacks and farmers or white farmers being targeted, violently killed, and so forth. What makes this story even worse is firstly that this elderly lady was attacked now for the second time in 2 months, and also that there was a sharp increase in farm attacks in that province. So according to Niels Nilsson, who's an independent researcher on rural safety, farm attacks in the Mpumalanga Province increased recently. This month so far, there have been 5 farm attacks. Usually there are about 2 per month. Now, there really seems to be people out there who believe that this isn't a very serious problem. But also, and the worst part of it is that there are people out there who do have access to this information, who refuse to talk about it, who refuse to report on it if they are news outlets, and who are, by doing so, through their negligence, complicit in creating a false narrative in South Africa. And so what we regularly have in South Africa, in the South African media, but also the international media, is that when farm attacks like these happen, or farm murders happen, it's not reported in the media. It's reported in the Afrikaans media, but not in the English media. But whenever there's a story of some farmer having committed something atrocious or done something wrong, it would be headlines throughout South Africa, and there would oftentimes also be international focus on this. And so let's take this story. From what I know, there's only one news report about this, and that is in Netwerk 24, Network 24, you could say, the Afrikaans news outlet. Now, Marula Media hasn't published anything yet, but they usually do, and so I'm convinced that maybe by the time this video comes out, you would read something about this on Marula. But I've opened up the most prominent and most influential news outlets in South Africa on my computer here. And so let's take a look. I am on News 24. If you search Rolé Uys, there's nothing. No news report about that. If we go on Daily Maverick, search Rolé Uys, I just copy and paste the name, search results for Rolé Uys, no search results found. IOL, Rolé Uys, no results. Eyewitness News, Rolé Uys, only one result, but it has to do with another story, a hammer thrower named Colette Uys. Mail and Guardian, search Rolé Uys, no results. SABC News, Rolé Uys, it seems we can't find what you are looking for. ENCA, Rolé Uys, nothing. And so, at what point could we say that a media outlet becomes complicit to a crisis? In my book, Kill the Boer, or for the book, we did some research on the extent to which media outlets report on violence in farms in South Africa. And we collected all the information we could find with the help of an independent researcher about every incident of violence that happened on a farm in South Africa over decades. We then gathered all the variables to see what can we learn from this. And one of the questions we asked was, what variable is the most significant variable to determine how the media would respond to an incident of violence on a farm in South Africa? And I thought it was the race of the victim, but I was wrong. It turns out the most significant variable that determines how the media would respond to violence on a farm in South Africa is the race of the perpetrator. In fact, from this data, we could do some calculations, and we found that when there is violence on a farm in South Africa and the perpetrator is white and the victim is black, it is reported on in the English media in South Africa that are so flagrantly ignoring this story 16 times as much as when it's the other way around, when the perpetrator is black and the victim is white. The fact is that there are incidents of violence on farms where white people are perpetrators. But the fact is also that those are isolated incidents by comparison. This is not to say that it's not a problem, that it should not be looked at, that it should not be reported on. But I remember speaking to a journalist after publishing this book and these findings, who said to me, but you should remember that when a white person is attacked on a farm by a black person, it's not newsworthy. The news don't report on it because it happens all the time. And so what's the point in reporting on it? But when it's the other way around, it is newsworthy. And so the consequence of this is that a false narrative is being created through the news, and that people who read the news, who do not know what's happening, who only read News 24 or Daily Maverick or one of these outlets, would have a completely warped and distorted perspective on what is happening in South Africa. And that is why it is so important for us, through social media, through platforms like these, and through the various platforms that we have and that you, the person watching this video, has, to help share this story, to help spread the news so that we can contribute to a more balanced perspective on what is happening in South Africa.